For George? Thank you very much. Could we hear from Representative Roberts, please? Representative?
Okay.
The button's going to be up.
Okay.
There you
So I
go.
wanted to testify on 3 different bills. Rep. Nardolillo's bill, number H7680, the Second Amendment Preservation Act. I co-sponsored this bill because I firmly believe it is a very good bill, especially in light of the fact that we are unfortunately at a point in time where we are debating our individual, fundamental, and inalienable right to keep and bear arms as provided for and guaranteed in both the U.S. Constitution and the Rhode Island Constitution. So, although long overdue, the very fact that this Preservation Act is even necessary to begin with, I believe, is downright shameful. For too long, on both a state and federal level, we have had many politicians who mistakenly believe that passing legislation that denies our Second Amendment right is an option. Rather, it is a guaranteed right, and at the risk of sounding redundant, because I know we've all heard this many times already, I'm going to repeat the Rhode Island Constitution, what it says in Article 1, Section 22. It specifically states, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." So I felt the need to repeat this because apparently there are legislators present within this very state house who either are lacking the respect for the rights of our citizens, or they are simply lacking the ability to comprehend English written words clearly spelled out within the contents of our state and federal constitutions. With all due respect, I believe that any legislator in either case should probably not be attempting to legislate in this state or even on the federal level, for that matter. So let us not forget that as legislators, we were elected of, by, and for the people. Passing this act will significantly enhance the preservation of the people's Second Amendment rights, which are already lawfully theirs anyway. That being said, I urge you to stop the blatant assault on the people's right to defend themselves by passing this bill once and for all, right here, right now, today. And that's all I have to say about that one. I think I'm actually going to skip testifying on Rep. Flippy's bill. And I'm just going to comment on Rep. Regunberg's bill, number H7199. I oppose this bill because I think it is an assault on our individual rights to defend ourselves, and it fails to actually address the real problem. So this bill does nothing other than to seek to turn the law-abiding citizen into who owns firearms into a criminal. First of all, when legislators take the oath of office, they take an oath to uphold the Constitution. If anything, what we really need is to criminalize those who seek to infringe on the Second Amendment rights guaranteed to individuals by both the U.S. and Rhode Island Constitution, in my opinion. So perhaps it is time to demand that legislators who propose this type of legislation that would defy the Constitution, perhaps we should ask them to forfeit their seat instead. And a couple other things I just want to mention is that that never seems to be brought up is that sometimes in domestic violence situations, you know, this might be a good way if some people were able to use firearms to protect themselves. I think it would stop a lot of that violence. So I think that's it bears worth saying. And another thing is that oftentimes we hear of, at least I've heard in a few cases before, where in domestic violence situations there have been, say for example, a man who might have chased a woman down and tried to hit her with an automobile. Well, obviously that's not right, but we don't go and take away people's automobiles. So in the same way, I don't think we need to ban firearms. And so therefore I urge you to vote down the 7199 Regunberg bill and pass Rep. Flippy's bill and Rep. Nardolillo's bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Rep. Roberts? Yes, Representative Ajello.
Representative Roberts, you talked a lot about the Second Amendment and constitutional rights of the people to own guns. Are there any laws on the books regarding gun ownership that you think are okay? Are there any laws limiting gun ownership or gun use that you think are okay?
I can't say specifically right now. It's not like I have them all off the top of my head. But I do think that we need to definitely preserve the rights of Second Amendment, firearm owners as much as possible, and only use restrictions only when absolutely necessary. So.
Any other questions? Thank you, Representative Roberts. Could we hear from Jennifer Boylan from Moms Demand Action?
Good evening. I am here today to express support for 7575, which would keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. This is important legislation that would help protect Rhode Island domestic abuse victims, some of our state's most vulnerable women and their families. My name is Jennifer Boylan, and I'm the volunteer Rhode Island chapter leader for Moms Demand Action for Gun